Warning, this is an adult-oriented podcast about really perverse things, like communication and consent. If you are under 18 and looking for answers to questions about sex or kink, please visit scarletteen.com. For the Dude Bro listeners, this is the nerdy shit. Fuck off!
Welcome to the portions of a podcast from the Gotham Press.
Hey, I'm thinking of doing something for the bottom tier of patrons. What do you think of...
Now I don't even know where we were at.
What are we talking about?
What are we talking about?
We were talking about her partner.
My partner. Well, we were talking about my partner.
Well, one of your partners.
I was talking about my friend who I hook up with sometimes, and how I talked about him once on the podcast. You know, in regards to like how sometimes you can't have penetrative sex because of brain drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me he was going to listen to the podcast. Completely forgot that I talked about that particular situation, right? Which he was totally fine with,
mm-hmm.
right? But it did make it so like the next time I hung out with him, he was just like, "Oh yeah, I can do this."
Is this one that I know about?
No.
Oh, okay. Then I don't know who this is.
Well, I was going to say that friend, I'm going to go see for a week next week. So
Fuck yeah.
Very excited.
Are you going to their area
Yes.
of the country?
Yes, I'm going over
Nice.
to him this time. He just bought his first house.
Oh, nice.
Yep. And I told him I'm going to pig him on every single surface in his house.
Oh, yeah.
He's a big fan of that.
Nice.
So, very excited.
Mashed potato, yams. I don't know what that meant.
I don't either, but it was funny.
From Bakersfield to Mount Olympus, Gotham Press talks naughty business. Sexual topics to explore your whoredom. Good if you're new or a kinky Yoda. Gotham Press Podcast. The dirty kinksters your parents warned you about.
I suppose we should probably start by saying thank you to, first, our patrons, which
Yes.
we fucking love you.
We do.
Your support actually makes this podcast possible because, believe it or not, there's a significant amount of financial responsibility with this shit. So thank you for making the Gotham Press Podcast a possibility. We love you.
We do.
And, yeah, something's coming to you.
Someone's coming to you.
So...
For just $1 a month, if you'd like to become one of our supporters, $1 a month, you can help us thrive. For $5 a month, you get early access to the episodes. And for $10, oh my God, I'm getting stabbed with a crop right now. What is that? You're fencing with a crop. For $10, our very own Thief of Dreams will write an erotica centered around you and read it on the podcast.
Mm-hmm. And if you are in that category right now, you should shoot me a message and let me know what you're into or what direction you want it to go in, and what your fet name is, so that I can kind of stalk you a little bit and get an idea.
Look through that fetish list a little bit.
Yum.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it's not all a bunch of nonsensical fetishes like mine is.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Oh, it does. Oh,
It
God.
does not matter what it is. It can go there.
If you would like to know where we can be found, go ahead and take a look in our show notes. We're basically everywhere. And let's go ahead and let's hop into thanking some of our sponsors.
I would like to personally thank JW Paddles because they have some phenomenal hardwood products and they're just beautiful works of art.
Yes. I got to show a bunch of my kinky friends one of my JW paddles, and they all were very approving of it. So it was my custom cross paddle that they made because of this podcast.
Nice.
If you find yourself interested in checking out some of JW Paddles' works, you can check them out at the Stockroom in Los Angeles.
Or go to the website.
Or go to their website if you aren't in the Los Angeles area. They have great pictures of them too, so you can actually get a good feel for scale and an idea of what the paddle's going to do.
They're nice and long.
They're shiny.
I like the long paddles myself. I'd like to think JW
Look at this dumb motherfucker.
paddles as well. But I'd also like to think Still Brat Pacis.
Absolutely.
If you go to their socials right now, they have a lot of uploaded pics of available decorations and styles and stuff that you can choose from. So, like, everybody's like, well, what do you got? Go check it out and see what they got.
Absolutely. I would like to thank Piercings By Bee LLC, and I would also like to congratulate her and her honey on their engagement. So you should yeah, they just got engaged. So we gotta help my girl be able to plan her wedding, give her some good monies. So go check her out, get some jewelry from her. You can find her at her website, piercingsbybee.com. She's also here in town at Good Fortune Tattoo at 231 Roberts Lane. She can also be found on Etsy and Facebook as well if you have any questions.
And for all of our sponsors, make sure that you go check them out because the holidays are a-coming. And they're coming quick.
They're coming, all right.
So make sure that they're coming the proper way.
Which means buy some of these vloggers.
Well, that too.
That or any of our sponsors.
Did we thank that last sponsor?
Piercings by Bee LLC.
Thief's Touch.
Thief's Touch.
Oh, Thief's Touch. Vloggers for everyday occasions. You can find it on Etsy at Thief's Touch.
And if you're local, make sure you reach out to Thief and say, hey, I want this particular vlogger you have posted, so you don't have to worry about shipping. Is that correct?
Save yourself some money.
Yep, but you must reach out to me before you purchase it. Don't purchase it on Etsy and be like, okay, I can pick it up. Be like, nope, it's got to ship. If you buy it on Etsy, it has to ship because that's how they're set up now. And it's a pain, but it is what it is. And you might even get a little discount if you come get it from me.
Hey, there you go.
Thank you so much, sponsors.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Thief. So, we totally didn't come up with our show notes 5 minutes ago and change everything that we were originally going to do. But it's okay because it's something that I feel like we can talk a lot about. I said that I wanted to do a polyamory episode because prior to me being on the podcast, y'all did at least one or two a year. Specifically, you would do a panel at CSUB where students would ask, and it was just kind of like a nice little review. It'd be on a couple of guests, and it was really cool. Obviously, right now, that's not necessarily a possibility since they're only at like 20% face-to-face instruction, so who knows if that class even does anything like that right now. But I was just like, that's what we're missing. We're missing a polyamory episode. I want to rant about polyamory.
Oh, so that's how this became a thing, okay?
I need to reach out to that professor again, see if having some people come in for a panel would be a possibility, even if it was video done.
We'll talk about that afterwards.
That would be cool.
Okay. I have specific information about that. I'll talk about it afterwards.
Cool.
For a while, you are aware of what polyamory is, but just in case you're not, polyamory is just essentially having more than one romantic partner, right?
Like, so I'm poly because I've had like 3 girlfriends since high school?
No, you have to have them all at the same time.
Oh,
they
wouldn't have liked that.
No, probably not. Not if they were monogamous folks, right? Which also I feel like that's kind of an important thing that we should mention, that polyamory isn't some elevated form of existence. It's just as valid as monogamy, and that's something I'm trying really hard to remind myself of, because sometimes I find myself making jokes at monogamous folks' expense, and that's not polite of me to do that, because just because that relationship style didn't work out for me, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. And I found myself doing that the other day, and I felt really bad about it. So anyway, so there's that. I feel like you're both giving very pensive looks, and I'm scared I'm in trouble.
Because to me, I feel like monogamy is outdated.
Well, here's the thing. I had a pretty interesting talk about it with one of my coworkers is aware that I'm polyamorous, right? And he's about my age, and he was saying, he's like, there's a lot of things about polyamory that sound just right to me, like the way that things should be. He's like, but I'm realizing the things about it that sound right to me, like, oh, I wish that I could do that, are things I could do with monogamy.
Right.
Okay.
And he said that because he really thought about it after a while, you know, and he was like, no, he's like, I'm definitely like, he's like, I just want to be with one person. He's like, they don't have to tick all of my boxes. That's not something that I actually need, you know. He's like, but the idea of that open communication that goes along with it, analyzing where jealous feelings come from, trying to figure out what you're going to lose, and just having, you know, just really nice intimate relationships with multiple people. He is like, I do really like that. He's like, but I think that I can only emotionally be committed to one person, and that's what I need. And so I was like, oh man, I was like, how do you have to say something so deep, kid? Like,
right. And that was my first like question about polyamory was what separates a polyam relationship from just a really good friendship.
Yeah.
And the answer was sex.
Well, for me, that wasn't the answer, but I had that exact same question. Let's put it that way. Where it was just kind of like, really, where is the line for me between a friendship and a relationship? Because I've had very intense and intimate friendships, and sometimes I even had sex with them, right? But I was trying to figure out like where that line was, and the fact that the line was so blurry for me is kind of what made me realize like, oh, polyamory might actually be the better relationship style for me, right? And just also I realized that I just need a lot more freedom in that aspect, especially because here's a good term. I'm not a polyfidelis person, which means that I'm not only committed to the people who I am currently dating. I'm polyamorous in the sense of who I'm romantically involved with, and also I'm in an open relationship with my partners as well. So that means I can, you know, go have sex with other folks, and go have intimate connections with other folks, and
you can try new teas.
I could go try some other flavors, sometimes multiple times, and it's fine. You know, I can have play partners and be intimate with them, just maybe not emotionally.
That's something we should talk about.
How do play partners play into polyamory?
Yes.
That's a pretty good one, isn't it?
It is.
Before we jump into that, I did have something to hit on with your initial commentary. One of you said monogamy is outdated.
I did.
Okay, I completely disagree with that.
I realized that's why I said it's something that like I came to kind of realize applies to me. It doesn't have to apply to anybody else.
Okay.
It just applies to me.
Okay, so maybe I just misunderstood what you
No, you heard it right. I said it like that. That's exactly how I said it.
Okay.
And that was to elicit response, but still.
Well, what I was going to say is poly is just another form of relationships. And just as much as monogamous people bash on poly people, and that's shitty of them, poly people shouldn't bash on anybody else. I mean, because we aren't the only, like you said, we're not the higher tier of relationship. We're not the end all be all for romance, for connections, for anything. You know, it's just our particular style.
Yeah, exactly.
And it'll all be settled when the aliens show up and they tell us what their futuristic relationships look like.
The alien overlords will come and set us all free.
Yes, because they're way more advanced than us, and they'll let us know that what worked or works for them is where we should be headed. So if it's monogamy, shit. If it's polyam, okay.
So,
or something else.
I hope it's not religion.
What are there any other relationships like?
Yeah.
What?
There's relationship anarchy, which means basically you do whatever the fuck feels right to you and fuck any sort of structure. Turn that off. There's blah, 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 blah. I swear to God, I had like 3 others. And
should we just like, I don't know, go over some of like typical poly terms? Yeah, let's go out of that. So I talked about polyfidelity earlier, being polyfidelis. Other people called it like a closed polycule. It just means that you're not seeking anything outside of your existing relationship networks. So I feel like that's a pretty good one. Some other ones, Oh, I really like using the term nesting partner. I use that very frequently whenever I refer to Gigantor. That just means that is the partner who I live with and exist with the most often. Some people use nesting partner and primary partner as interchangeable. I don't like doing that only because I don't exist in my polycule does not exist in a hierarchy by our choice.
Okay.
So making anyone feel secondary isn't what I want. I just need people to understand the difference with Gigantor. And if I say, oh, this is my nesting partner, they know that that's the one that I live with, because that means there's a different kind of relationship there.
Right.
You know? So that's kind of a big deal. But hierarchical poly relationships, they tend to use words like primary and secondary, which could mean
less than.
That sounds terrible to say, but it just means that it's like not their main relationship.
Right. And that's like you were saying with Gigantor is your nesting partner, is it still carries a little more than some others, because that is, and it has nothing to do with the relationship aspect so much as I live with this person.
We share finances.
Yeah,
we share responsibility, you know.
So there's a little bit more that goes into that, and has to go into that for you to survive. Like there's just, you can't just not, I guess you just can't not have that. I don't know where I was going with that. Completely lost myself. This is the night of loss.
It happens.
It does.
I think everybody gets one, right?
Yeah.
I should get a few. Although I haven't been here in a while.
Gets a few.
So another one, a lot of people will say that they're polyamorous and they're ethically non-monogamous. When I think of that, I think of ethical non-monogamy being the umbrella word and polyamory being falling underneath that. It's just a relationship structure where everyone involved is aware and consenting to some form of non-monogamy.
Mana.
Of course. Some people also call it consensual non-monogamy as well. Some other things. Fluid bonding, that's a term that we use pretty frequently. Do y'all know what that is?
Oh, yeah.
Fluid bonding?
Fluid
That's
bonding.
used in the Polyam?
Yes, it is.
Oh, that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
I've just only heard of it used in like the kink context.
That's where I heard it first too, but I hear it a lot in a polyamorous relationship. It's just not using barriers when it comes to any of your fluids, like sharing fluids with another person, right? Because fluids is what's typically going to share things like STIs or pregnancy or...
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah, exactly. So if you are fluid bonding with a person, then that's actively something that's going to take some of your partner's consent, right?
Yeah.
You know, because they're gonna be like, okay, well, it's no longer about you and the fun you're having, because if they give you an STI, it's gonna very quickly become about me.
Right.
So if you're choosing to fluid bond with a partner, that is something you actually need consent from all of your other partners to do.
That sounds like good advice.
Yeah?
Yeah, at least that's the way
Reasonable.
I look at it. Let's see, we talked about hierarchical relationships. Oh, kitchen table polyamory.
Mm-hmm.
It's my preferred method of polyamory. But I used to think that was like the ultimate goal. Like that's like the extension of poly. That's what you have. So it's the 1-2 way of poly. Is having a polycule where everyone can sit at the kitchen table together and have wonderful conversations and eat breakfast together and, you know, da-da-da-da-da. Right? And I was like, that's what I want. And then I realized that this polyamory comes in a lot of different forms. And it's like really okay for your partners to be indifferent to each other. Like you don't have to force a friendship there. Like there's already some form of a relationship if they're metamors, right?
Right.
But you don't have to force more interaction if they're just not clicking.
What if they click?
Then that's cool. Then you got yourself a whole nother thing going.
You're like, we're just weaving this Weber tighter, or Weber, this web tighter and tighter. Weber, weaving this Weber.
We're barbecuing the shit out of this.
Yeah.
I mean, there has been lately in my polycule been several jokes made about Gigantor and my metamor, where there's a lot of threats of dick sucking, and they both related into it pretty hard. And I'm like, Is this a thing? Is this happening? I'm like, y'all go off. You do it. Please film it. Even I'd like to see. But
I mean, the holidays are a-coming.
There you go. And so will Gigantor. So, but that is definitely not the way that it has to exist. I mean, there are several members of my polycule who I've never even met. There is one who I've never spoken to.
Who you've never spoken to?
Who I've never spoken to. Because it is my metamor's metamor.
Oh, okay.
So my web is kind of long.
Yeah, I see when you said the whole kitchen table thing, I was thinking
just the people.
But that's just you. That's just your web. So like, what about theirs? Like you're gonna need a banquet hall.
Oh, for sure. I mean, at one point,
depending on the relationships.
At one point, our polycule was up to 12 people. And that was kind of intense. We're down to 9. But I mean, even like when I draw it out sometimes. 'Cause I'm like, I like to see my constellation of a polycule or whatever, right? Gigantor likes to mention how he's at one end of it. He's just like, somewhere they're starting with me, right? Because Gigantor, and I could say these other people's names because they're unfit now. There's Gigantor who's dating me, and me who's dating the Jolly Rogue, and the Jolly Rogue is dating Faye Archer, and Faye Archer has 3 other partners, and 2 of those 3 partners also have another partner. Yeah, it's pretty great. Everyone knows what a long distance relationship is, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Physically distance from each other.
Fuck that.
It's pretty rough.
I can't do it anymore. Did it a lot when I was younger.
Same here.
And it's rough.
I can't be romantically involved in that kind of relationship. I could do other things and have it be long distance, but I can't. I found for me, I can't do that. But there are a lot of people, like my metamor, who can effectively do long distance relationships and build intimacy. It takes a lot more work than, frankly, I'm willing to give into some of my relationships.
I had a different way of, like, for me, long distance relationships were perfect because I could ignore them whenever I wanted. Oh, I didn't get your message, or I just got it, or I'll get back to you when I want to. It was all about me. So it was like I didn't have to call them unless I wanted to. Like, there was just, and it was just bad. Like, it made me a bad person. And then also there's no physical contact. So there's no snuggles, there's no hugs, there's no, nothing like that. And that's rough. And like the times when I would actually get to meet them and spend time with them, it was just a flurry of activity. Yeah. And
they like get it all out.
Yeah. And then it was over and we were back in separate places, and it was like, what are we doing? Like what did that just, and I don't know, it was never okay for me. Like I never came back from visiting someone and thinking, this will work. Yeah. We can do this. Like, it was either, now I want them even more. Like, I want to be with them physically, or it wasn't all that. So I'm, probably going to move on.
I've noticed that there's a lot more polyamorous people that, at least in my experience, that have long distance relationships, right? Because a lot of them have a partner who they can have tick the box of like the physical intimacy and things like that, right? But the long distance partner is ticking some other boxes that maybe don't need to be ticked quite as often, for example, my meta with one of their long distance partners, they've gone long bouts of time without actually speaking to each other, but that's okay because that's the way that their relationship functions. And it doesn't mean that there's any less like intimacy or romance or care for each other there. That's just the way that theirs can work. And at the same time, both of them do have other partners to get the more, I guess, immediate needs from.
Right.
So that's just something that I've noticed. I don't know if that's necessarily the cause. I should probably actually ask them if that's, but I also just know the way that they tend to function within their relationships. They have a really good, like, balance when it comes to that. When they're like, this person does this thing for me and I really appreciate it. So, and that's definitely something that I know that they make people aware of before they get into relationships with them. They joke that they just forget people exist and remember one day, oh, this person exists.
Oh, wow.
No, not in regard to their partners, but in regard to like their friends. Like, oh yeah.
So you could have a relationship with that chick that's in jail for 23 years for murder.
Oh, I've known several people who have done that. So
murdered people?
Yes, that too, but that wasn't what I was talking about. who start relationships with people when they're already in jail and maintain that relationship for a very long time. Yeah. Let's see some other words. NRE. Who knows what NRE is?
I do.
NRE.
Non-regurgitatory. What was the last letter?
E.
Energy.
Well, you got one of those words right.
Yeah, good for you.
1 out of 3. That's like
which one was
passing in California school system.
That's true.
New relationship energy.
Is this
So
something?
the energy.
Yes.
You nailed that one.
This is something that happens in all relationships. Some people call it the puppy love phase or the honeymoon phase or the cupcake phase or anything like that. I think it's used a little bit more in polyamory just because when you have multiple relationships that are starting at different times, you're in different bouts of NRE at different times. But yeah, that's just the excitement and the giddiness that comes with a brand new relationship or the beginnings of a relationship.
Yeah.
And it is quite literally like a drug.
Yes.
That's why I think I went to a class about relationships, I think a couple months ago, and they were saying that like it's quite literally addicting. That's why like if you meet people who tend to jump from relationship to relationship, or they have like a certain like period of time and they kind of jump to a new one, or if they're like collecting partners and getting rid of partners, collecting partners and stuff like that, it's literally because this feeling is very addicting. I mostly hear it talked about negatively, which is a bummer, right? Because everyone's like, oh, well, I know we're just an NRE right now or whatever. But the thing about NRE is that it's building the foundation of that person.
That's true.
You know, and then the next step, you figure out if those are actual things you're like, or if you were just looking at it with rose-colored glasses. But it's building the foundation of your relationship, so it's incredibly necessary, and I'm not here for NRE slander.
Well, then it will not be slandered.
Right, Greedy?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
He's over there on his phone. It's fine.
It's a listener that has a question, and I'm trying to see if I can get consent to read the question
Oh,
online.
okay. All right.
Even
well,
if you don't read it, and we just won't say where it came from. No? Can you generalize it enough to...
just get the consent.
Yeah, get the
I'm
consent.
gonna get the
Consent's always
consent.
better.
They're probably fine with that.
I can keep going. How about the good old one penis policy?
Oh, isn't that what they do in Utah?
Yes, that is.
That's what they. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's
A lot of religions tend to, if they're going to embrace non-monogamy, they're going to make it the one penis policy non-monogamy, and usually throw some version of religion into that mix.
Mm-hmm. There is. I was talking to another community member who was actually a monogamous person, and she was like watching some show that's about polyamory, typically with. There also tends to be a lot of transphobia linked with that, because it's like, if it's a trans woman, they're just kind of like, oh no, absolutely not. They have a penis. Only my penis can go in that vagina. I'm sorry. So consenting to that, then y'all do you. But for a lot of folks, it is kind of seen as like a ethical issue or like
kind of a taboo thing, isn't it? Or not taboo, but like old school or not old school. I realize isn't that just polygamy?
No.
So polygamy is more of a religious aspect to it, or?
No. Okay. Yes, polygamy is one male, multiple females.
Right.
Okay. Polyandry is one female, multiple males. I forget the one that is like just unlimited penis and vagina for days. I don't remember that
Polyamory?
term. No, polyamory is basically the umbrella that all of them fall under.
Yes.
Oh.
So you've got the main point of polyamory up top. Okay, ethical non-monogamy,
which is God. You said at top. It's got to be God's. I'm getting flipped off for those twice.
Okay, so you have polyamory. Then down below you've got polygyny, polyandry. Technically, you could get swinging into that too.
Technically.
So these are all forms of all forms of non-monogamy, ethically or not. They are forms of non-monogamy. Do I want to get into the ethics of it all?
So one of the biggest things about the one penis policy is that it kind of infers that in some ways relationships, because usually it's the man imposing it upon their female partner. It's inferring that female relationships are lesser and therefore safer when it's the relationship between the two females. It's not as much of a danger to the male. That's what one of the ethical things I've heard about it is, that it's just like, oh, it's fine, it's just a woman. It feels like it's almost like an invalidation of that relationship between those two women. Or I should even say between the two people of the same sex, because that's usually what it actually boils down to, is the person's parts.
Right.
So that's, and then again, there's the transphobia aspect of it is pretty brutal. There is something to be said about, like, sometimes they only want their female partner to date other females. I know that Greedy's told a story before about entering a polyamory group, and like they were all terribly misogynistic people,
right,
who thought that there was something up with him because, you know, his female partner had a male partner that wasn't him.
Right.
So usually those are the type of people that enact the one penis policy.
Yeah. Okay. So that can go both ways. It can go a one penis policy or a one pussy policy, and either one of them, if it's one person dictating this is how it's going to be, and the others are just kind of going along with it, that is not ethical.
Yes, correct.
In my opinion, that's not ethical.
But I mean, if they agree to it,
okay. What is
agreeing
ethical?
So they don't get dumped?
Well, I mean, going into it,
what
if
is
you
consent?
knew that was how things were structured going into it, then I feel like it shouldn't be bashed upon, I guess, or denigrated. Like,
and that's the thing. If everyone is actively, enthusiastically consenting to that, then that's totally fine. The reason why it becomes an ethics issue is because a lot of the times when these types of relationships are happening, usually the female in that relationship is not happy with that arrangement.
right.
Or at the very least comes out of that arrangement pretty upset, because that's also another partner exhibiting power over their relationships.
So that just sounds like an abusive relationship, in a sense. Well,
that
not
could
in a sense,
happen,
but actually, because yeah, like if that was the case, then it's like, we're gonna do this, you're going to do this. Like, and it's not like, what do you think about this, or what is your opinions about this, or how do you feel about this?
And I feel like that whole situation is messy enough. Now, when you add the aspect of kink to it, where some people are in dynamics, then like, where does that go with that, right? Like, if this, and again, we're kind of doing some heteronormative stuff right now, but if we were to assume that maybe there was a male top and a female bottom, and his word goes in their relationship, then really she kind of consented to all of that. So at that point, I wouldn't really, it's hard, right? It's hard to define as to whether or not it's something that's it's something that's abusive at all. It's just that that person is agreeing to that. So that's why it's like, ethically, it's a little bit off.
Right.
But not everything that kinksters do is ethical.
That's true. And I've seen, going back to just strictly a relationship aspect, I've seen a lot of consent that wasn't really consent.
Yeah.
And it was done because they were scared, or they were afraid of losing something or someone, or just for the safety aspect of it. And I've seen people use that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, basically what we're trying to get across here is consent is a yes, oh my God, yes, I want that.
Enthusiastic,
informed,
desire.
yes, not just a Well, I mean, if it makes you happy, then I guess.
Yeah.
That's not consent. That's as good as a fucking no. Mm-hmm. And it should be taken as a no every time. I don't give a shit who you are, how badass you are, you know, whether your title is High Lord Domly Dom or whether you are Floor Crawler Sub 669. It doesn't matter who you are. If you are not giving an enthusiastic yes after being fully informed, that is not consent.
I have some feelings about that. I agree with you mostly.
Okay.
I do. Only because I know and care about people in consensual, non-consent relationships. Sometimes they're made to do a lot of things that they really adamantly do not want to do, but because their initial consent that they agreed upon is overriding everything else, that's the only thing I want to add to that.
That is different.
It is.
Having
it is.
a consensual, non-consent relationship is different. If you have negotiated it ahead of time, you still have your safe word. So yes, you are still consenting to that relationship, and you are within the bounds of that relationship.
Yeah, where essentially we're like I know some folks in this kind of dynamics where essentially the bottom has two decisions: to be a part of it or to not be a part of it.
Yeah.
That's as far as their consent goes. So, and that's something that they would have agreed to upon fully knowing the weight of that. So that's the only caveat I want to give to that. And that's not something I would typically mention except for the fact that the kind of platform that we're on.
And
that's the only reason why I bring it up.
Exist.
Yeah, exactly.
One caveat I would bring to that, the consensual, non-consent relationships that I know, they renegotiate at least annually.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that's something that is a clear delineation between, I don't want to say legitimate, but I can't really think of a proper word for it.
Informed, maybe.
Informed, maybe.
Healthy.
Healthy
I don't
is
know that
good.
there's anything
yeah.
healthy. Well,
I feel like that's some bias.
no, definitely some bias there. I think
they're figuring out what works out for them. They're doing
Yes.
check-ins. They're actively communicating.
so long
They're
as that-
making sure that there is a moment of equality long enough to make sure they both still want to be there.
So long as that dialogue is there and revisited at least relatively frequently, then fucking A, do
Yeah.
it.
Absolutely.
Or just being in a healthy enough relationship where if something comes along that may change an aspect of that, you're able to have that conversation.
Yes.
You know, like where it's... Because, I mean, it could be it could be random shit that just changes something about a perceived way of
Having
of
a parlay
thinking.
policy.
Yeah, like, and it's just like, holy shit, okay, well, we need to talk about this. Oh, but I can't because our annual check-in isn't for another 7 months. Like,
Yeah.
no, like there's... And I also feel like most of those relationships, well, I shouldn't even say most, but
Some of those relationships.
are going to be stronger relationships than we typically are talking about.
Yeah, they're going to
Like
have a
they're-
really... Usually they're going to have a pretty stellar foundation with
Hopefully,
lots of expectations.
Yeah, like hopefully.
I would really hope so, too.
Yeah, it's not something like, oh, I met this chick on an app last night, and now she's my slave. And it's like, wait,
Yeah.
At
what?
least the ones that I know of that they have that big strong foundation
Yeah.
that's a part of it. Heck, I met two people who like their relationship had been going for so long that they ditched the slave's old contract and simply changed it to "I will obey." Because that's all that she actually knew. They had everything at the closet there, and every time it just kind of kept on getting smaller and smaller because it's like they were so in a groove, and like the master of that relationship knew her so well, and there was so much trust there that at the end of the day, that's the only part of their contract that they needed, which is just
Wow.
I will obey.
Let me ask you guys this: what if, like, we were always talking about the in-depth relationship needed for that kind of dynamic? What if you just wanted to play? What if you just wanted to have a little fun with somebody? Is it okay to take on those monikers and be those roles for a day?
I would say so. It's no one else's business but your own.
Yeah, like you just know that you're free to technically walk away at any time. Like
Yeah.
you know, you just have to have, I don't know, because I feel like you could play with it, and it doesn't have to be a serious thing. You know,
Oh,
like it doesn't have
absolutely.
to be a full on lifestyle change. if somebody just wants to check it out and kind of see how they feel about it, like, and I feel like we miss a lot of that too, of just playing with stuff and things and people, and it's not a bad thing.
No,
it can be if you're not careful, but I mean, yeah.
I mean, I like to think of, I entered into play with someone over a 3-day, it was basically, we call it like a 3-day scene, as if we were actively, like, I don't know, playing the whole time, but it wasn't like that. It was like a 3-day dynamic type of scene, right? Where for those 3 days, I entered a consensual non-consent relationship with this person, right? And there was a whole lot of sex and play involved because that's what I asked for, and he delivered, right? But there was other aspects of it where we did act as if we were in a straight up dynamic the whole time. We still put a sizable amount of negotiation for what would apply for that weekend, you know? So there was still had to be heavily negotiated for that, because that's just a lot of trust to put in another person.
Right.
You know, but for us, it was just like, 3 days and it's done. And I never felt scared to have to, like, opt out if I needed to. I didn't really have to. Mm-hmm. But I did also have a pretty good amount of friendship with that person beforehand. You know, that I don't know if I'd recommend that for a pickup play.
Right.
Pickup play with someone who you don't know.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. Anyway, that was fun. I really liked that conversation. I'm glad we had that conversation.
I am too. And I would say that if you do that as like a pickup play, then have outs, have lifelines, have safety measures in place for you. Mm-hmm. Like on just your own personal level, like, figure out messaging or something, just a way to get out of a situation that you may want to, get into willingly, and then figure out really quickly, shit.
Yeah, I mean, even with that person, I had, like, tracking on. I had check-ins with my partner at the time, and he even had check-ins with his partner.
Good.
Too, because, I know that I'm only half his size, but
right.
You don't know what I could do with a knife, man.
That's true. That's true.
But, yeah, so absolutely, safety first. One of the things I did want to talk about, I'm kind of going through my little random poly list here. I think I'm going to start with this one. How much influence should you have over your partner's relationship? In this case, like if I were talking about me, how much influence do you think is appropriate for me to have over if Gigantor was with another person? How much can I have to do with their relationship, or even with Rogue and their partner, Faye? How much?
When you're asking how much influence should you have over someone else's relationship, are you meaning to say, should you have veto power, or should you have any sort of say when they can be sexual? Should you have any sort of say when they can go out? Should you have any sort of... Is that what you're saying?
That is all part of what I'm asking.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, there's layers to this.
This is going to be a very complicated answer, so brace yourself, okay? None. I feel everybody should have informed consent.
Yeah.
To the extent that they all are openly honest and communicative with you, that is as far as your power over their dynamic, their relationship should go, in my opinion. That said, if you don't like how things are going with one relationship or another, voice that. But don't try and limit what they can do. That takes away their agency. They can no longer be their own person.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lot of how I feel. In my relationship, we don't necessarily have veto power. I've kind of phrased it as the initial veto, in the sense of like when I wanted to date another person, I did ask my polycule essentially for their blessing. And by I'm not even talking about my polycule, my partners. The ones that I was already dating.
Right.
Like, we good with this? And that's just the way that we like to operate. Just because if there's already some insecurities in those other relationships, They may be like, I'm feeling real weird about the fact that you're adding another relationship when we're having these issues right here. And I feel like that's going to take even more focus away from that. Right? So it's like, that's what we allow in our relationship. We don't have in mind veto power over, like, you have to dump this other person if I say so.
Right.
You know, and, you know, again, when kink gets added, it gets murky, right? Because sometimes there are some hierarchies in there between dynamics of different partners. I remember I heard once, and I remember it really frustrated me, and I had to recognize that that's just not the way that I would operate. Or I had heard about somebody who was in a dynamic with their partner. Their partner was their sub, their slave. I'm not really sure, but their bottom, right? They're in that relationship dynamic with each other, and that person, the bottom in that relationship, also had a bottom, but their bottom and their top were not in a relationship with each other. But still, there was one time when their top was punishing them, and so they said, "Oh, you're gonna have a scene with your partner tonight. You can only use these toys," and handed them like feathers and pillows and stuff like that, which, you know, has obvious influence now on their bottom.
Yeah.
And they're able to say that because they're in a dynamic. This isn't something that maybe would happen when you're not in a dynamic. At least I would hope not. But I remember I heard that, and I just got really, really upset about it. I didn't like that, because I imagined from, you know, the one who was on the very bottom of the tier there, that's very unfair. It's like you're getting punished for what your top did.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a little bit, to me, that was really frustrating.
It could be, or maybe it was an accepted challenge. Well, it's not, though, if they're their sub, though. Like, that's not like a friendly, I challenge you to only use these 3. They were telling them you're only going to use. So it kind of, I don't know. That doesn't sound good to me.
Yeah, because to me, it doesn't feel like.
But at the same time, if I had a partner who brought another partner home and I walked in on that partner in the bathroom slamming heroin, I'm going to have issues.
Yeah. But
so,
I feel like there's a difference there, right, though?
Okay.
Because now you're no longer defining what your partner can do. You're setting your own boundaries at that point, right? So it's like we talked about fluid bonding earlier.
Right.
Right? So let's say that Gigantor was dating someone who he was super down to fluid bond with, but I know that person messes with some unsavory folks, and I don't know about those statuses, right? I feel like I could set my own boundary of like hey, you're doing this thing and it's making me feel unsafe, so that means that we got to work on this issue between me and you, because if you want to continue to fluid bond with them, then you got to wear protection with me. Or like, I feel like that's setting your own boundary less than saying you have to do this with this person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, that makes sense.
And I read a writing on FET the other day talking about like veto power and like misunderstandings. And I remember at first I was super pissed off, and I went into the comments. I'm like, oh, they got something completely different. So I went back and I read it again, and it's essentially what they were actually saying. That like the power of a veto, to them at least, is like setting your own boundaries,
right,
of what you're willing to engage in because of things about their relationship that's affecting you.
That makes sense.
Yes and no. I see veto power as a double-edged sword. Okay, on the one side, you have the authority to say, no, this is affecting my relationship with you, and if this is going to continue, if we are going to continue, then we're going to call it quits. If you're saying yes, then we're going to cut off all other relationships and just focus on us for this for the health of our relationship. That's one thing. But if your partner is saying, no, I don't like what he's doing with you, that has to end right now. That again goes back to having agency for yourself.
Yes.
So if you're using it to set boundaries for your own relationship, that's one thing. But if you're using it to set boundaries, set rules on your partner and their relationships, that's something completely different.
Agreed. Absolutely. I think that's what I was trying to go for, and I just kind of bumbled my way around it.
I thought maybe that was.
But we got there.
We got there. We did.
I need Greedy to like unravel all of my thoughts, because I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Peeling back the onion.
Yeah. So, I mean, since we're talking about that, how much cracking up
now
over
I'm
here.
thinking about Shrek. Onion boy.
I have no idea what that means. No, I've never seen it.
Oh my.
I'm not watching it either.
You're missing out.
I'm
really
really
are.
not.
You
There's
are.
a whole section of pop culture you just never understand. All the inside. We're just gonna make jokes all the time about it.
Cool. That's awesome.
So I guess how much about your relationship with a person do you feel is appropriate to tell your meta about?
On a personal level?
Yeah,
Whatever
just
they want to
personally.
know.
I would agree with that. I wholeheartely agree with that. Whatever my relationships consent to know about the others, that's what I'm going to share with them. Okay?
How about how would you feel if your partner was telling your meta more stuff that you two shared with each other in confidence? Like if I
In
said,
confidence?
well, I shouldn't even say that. Like, let's say that I shared with, I'm just going to keep on, I feel bad. I'm not, if you're listening to this, I'm not talking about you, Moth and Faye. These are all completely hypothetical scenarios.
Ooh,
I'm not
spill
mad
the
at you.
tea.
Swear to God, what the fuck?
I was just thinking about that. I was like,
Here we go.
They both have anxiety.
Guilty conscience, huh?
No, they just both have anxiety, and I know this well. Like, if I were to share with Moth, I have this deep, dark insecurity, and it just really affects me, and it plagues me every single day. And let's say Moth has a hard time carrying that, and so maybe, they consent Faye about it, or consult Faye about it, and we're just kind of like, how do I handle this, right? Like, does that mean that my trust has been trespassed?
That's up to you.
Yeah.
That would entirely
I think
be
so, but
that would
just wanted your
entirely be
thoughts.
based on your particular viewpoint, and I would encourage you to try and look at it from a broader perspective than just, oh my God, what the fuck are you doing? More of a, okay, so where was your head when you did this? What was your intent?
yeah,
Because it would,
intent can mean a lot.
oh yeah, it can, and that's one of the keys of non-monogamous relationships. I mean, you have to have communication clear enough that all parties involved understand the intent of all other parties and understand what they're saying and doing in the way that they mean it, not the way that you're hearing it.
Context is also important there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Well, so that's the situation. That's never happened to me. And for my polycule, I don't ever perceive that being an issue because we kind of do got that really kitchen table poly thing happening. So
Right.
it's pretty good. We're all really close. But I have had a friend where when they were getting to a relationship with another person, or I think it was their partner was getting a relationship with another person. And I guess that the other person was very frustrated about what their mutual partner shared. Right. And, she very much felt like she had a right to know this information because it did affect her.
Okay.
Right. And this, well, like, for example, I would want to know if Gigantor was fluid bonding with a person. This person's reaction to that would be, well, where is my privacy?
That's valid.
Yeah.
And I get that, but it's like,
it's valid to the extent that it is their thing, but that treads into the area of it is now affecting you directly, physically, and there is a level of necessity for sharing that information. Asking your partner to get their partner's panel done and get informed on what the results were, that's for your own safety.
yeah,
And if your partner's partner is not willing to consent to that, then that needs to be a boundary that you set. If they're not willing to do it, like you said earlier, if they're not willing to get tested, if they're not willing to take safe precautions for themselves, then you've got to be able to set the boundary for yourself that if this happens, if you go out and have a fluid-bound relationship with this person, then you are going to be wearing protection with me if our intimate relationship continues.
yeah. That's very much how I feel. And I was having I question these thoughts pretty often when I hear them.
Yeah.
Because these are like the common things that I hear, and when other people are having issues within their polyamorous relationships, or even just starting them out, especially for new folks. It's like, how much am I allowed to ask? How much am I allowed to know? Because these people, they were relatively new to polyamory, and so it's just like, I don't know. Like, is it cool for me to know if you're fucking my partner? Like, is that allowed? Can I know that without trespassing your boundaries that you saying is a boundary?
Here's a weird thing. I ended a relationship because they shared something with very close friends of mine who I would have been okay with telling on, like a one-on-one aspect, but they chose to do it in a very public fashion, and I just lost all trust. And I said, we're done. Like, and meant it. Like, in my heart, like everything, any feelings that I had were gone. And it wasn't like she wasn't trying to betray me. Like, there was nothing. It was just a friendly conversation where they were like, "Oh, well, how's the sex?" And she's like, "I don't know. We haven't had sex." And they're like, "It's been months." And she's like, "I know." And that just came to a head. And then they all looked at me like, well, how come you're not fucking her? And I'm like, I got to leave. And so I just bounced out and then pulled them aside like one at a time and was like, all right, well, let me give you a little history on me. And they're like, oh, my God, I didn't know.
Yeah, because that very much feels like it's painting an immediate picture in their heads that's maybe not. Yeah. And maybe it was like, information that you just didn't want to be out there. So I can imagine something similar happening in like a polyamorous setup too, where it's like oh no, I told you that's sensitive information. I really did not want you to share it with that person.
But having said that, I am not that same person anymore, to where I feel like if I was getting involved in a relationship, polyam or otherwise, at this point, all my cards are going to be on the table. And it's going to be, okay, so, here's this relationship, here's my cards. If I have another relationship, here's my cards. You two are free to share my cards with each other. Like, there's no, that way everything is on the up and up. Like, but that's just my personal thing. Is I don't want to ever be involved with somebody I have to hide anything from.
I absolutely agree.
Like that, and that's a huge thing for me. So
let's delve into that just a little bit.
Okay.
Hypothetically. Okay. If you and your partner had discussed having an open relationship or a poly relationship, and your partner went out and had sex with somebody that they'd developed feelings for, okay, what would your thoughts be had they not consulted you beforehand? Had they not said to you, hey, person R over here, I like them, I'm going to go have sex with them?
It would depend on the relationship.
Yeah, depends.
Like what we had talked about before. Like, because I would probably given them permission to fuck whoever you want. Just be safe about it. If there comes a time when you kind of think, I might have fucked up, that wasn't very safe. Let me know, and we'll do what we need to do. But I mean, otherwise, have fun. Like, you don't need my permission for anything.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, if you come to me and you're like, hey, I really want to go out with my friends, is it okay? That's going to piss me off because I am not your father. Like, I have trust in you or I wouldn't be in this relationship. And until you show me that I shouldn't trust you, then our relationship will continue. Like, that's...
I know with Gigantor and I, like, it's very generally just like, well, tell me who it is so I don't run into them later and they're like, hey, fucked your partner the other day. That was real cool of you, bro. Like, and I know for him, he was like, yeah, tell me who it is and don't tell me anything past that. Please, for the love of God, do not say anything past that. And I'm sit there and I'm just like, no, tell me everything. Like his last hookup, I was just like, no, did you do the finger thing? Did you do I'm like, I want to know every part about it. And he's, that's so weird, but okay. God. Like, and I'm like, it's hot. I really like it. And also, I just want to be happy for you.
Yes, there's somebody else like me.
Yeah, dude, that is totally how I am. And I totally respect the fact that Gigantor is like, no, tell me who it is and then don't ever talk about it. Just tell me if you're going to go do it again.
So I have a question for you now. What if you ask them, a partner, hey, did you do this thing that you really enjoyed? And they're like, yeah, they didn't like it.
That's complete. Because the thing is, I'm an AFAB, so I'm like used to the fact that other AFABs do not have any of the same. Like that's just the thing. Like I have like my award-winning move, and I use it on somebody, and they're like, "Me," and I was like, "What, motherfucker? Like this is."
Brain fart. AFAB.
Assigned female at birth.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
very specific. I'm talking about like when it comes to genitals, and I feel like when it comes to female genitals in particular, you just gotta know the spots to get to. That's
It's depending on the person too.
Sometimes it doesn't do anything. I was real upset. I was like, "You're telling me my finisher move doesn't do anything for you? Oh my god!" Like, and I'm sure that penises are complicated too sometimes, but I haven't had too much of that experience.
Okay, so let's dive into this subject a little bit because sex. We all like talking about sex. Penises, absolutely. Every one of them is just a little bit different from any other one out there. And to say that yes, this one move is going to make every guy go wild, and I'm thinking of a few magazines in particular. That's fucking bullshit. Don't play that game. No. I mean, learn each partner. Each partner is going to be a new experience, a new adventure.
And let them tell you what they like.
Yes, and listen to them.
And you should tell them what you want. I was so grateful. I hooked up with somebody, and they told me before we got together, hey, I just want to let you know, because they're like, most of the people who I've hooked up with, they do this particular thing with my dick, because I think that's what just most dick havers like. I like it the opposite way. Really, all that was just like, instead of like a up and down motion when you're jerking them off, they're like really like push up.
Yeah.
That's what they're uncircumcised. They're like, that feeling in particular really works well for what I got going on down here, and that feeling really does it for me. They're like, the pulling down part is what I actually don't like. So really try to get up on the upswing. And I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, and yielded great results. And next person I hooked up with, they're like, well, I don't like that. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, so this is not a one size fits all. All right.
Exactly.
So I stumbled into that on accident.
Yeah.
How?
Yes, because I had a partner who kept asking me, what do you want? Like, what do you want? Like, how do I do it? What do I do? Like, what do you want? And I'm just like, you do it. You do it. Like, what do you mean? What do you... And then it turned into, okay, well, then I want you to go slow and start here and kind of work your way. And then it turned into, let me just fucking tell you what you're going to do to me right now. And that, like, just became so much hotter for both of us. And it was like, oh, okay, this is how we're doing this now. Like,
and it's one of those...
But it's so hard to get there because you are like just kind of petrified of like, I don't want to upset them. They're doing good things for me, right? Well, they're trying, but really it's just, okay, why I just listened to you say that guys don't know where the clit is, and you're just like jackhammering away down there like it's just a fucking pylon or something. Like,
it's super weird too when you have like a sexual partner who have the same parts as you, because my initial thought was always like, oh, I'll just do the things that I like. And again, that fucking finisher move gets me every time. I tell people to do that to me, and I was like, oh yes, it did nothing for them. Absolutely nothing. And I was like, I was like, maybe they just don't react during sex. Maybe. Luckily, it was a threesome, and the other person's like, "Oh no, they want this." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so glad there's someone else down here with me."
Right? That's why we need to advocate for more threesomes, foursomes, and moresomes.
Hell yeah, group sex all day, every day. It's a good time.
Especially the days when you're just not feeling it. And you're like, I wish there was somebody else here to just take over and handle this right now.
Okay, so let's actually dive that way a little bit, because that sounds fun.
Okay.
If you're not with your partner, what ways can you have intimacy even though there's a distance between you?
Oh, is this going back to phone sex?
Well, I mean, it certainly can.
I'm a big fan of that.
I too, but I get hooked on it.
Well, I'm not telling you to go dial 1-900 numbers.
No, it has to be somebody I know. That doesn't work for me because I know they're all just full of shit. They're like sitting there doing dishes or something, and fake moaning.
My mom did that.
Yeah.
Did you just turn on the whirlpool?
Right. I had a friend who she probably still does that, actually. And like whenever we were over, she'd be like, "Are you shut the fuck up?" Like you couldn't say a word or be too loud. Like if you closed a cupboard too loud, and then it would give kind of the game up, and they would just hang up. Like sometimes, like, and then she had like her regulars where she's like, "Oh, you guys just go ahead and do whatever," like, you know. And they were just called to talk to her. Like it had nothing to do with sex. And I'm like, dude, you're paying $4 a minute just to talk.
Well,
We've been over here for an hour and a half doing nothing. Like.
Well, it depends on what people get off on, right? Because like I think of like some of like the long distance hookups. I don't know, but like I've had, and one of the things that really turns me on is control, bottoming for it and topping for it, right?
Okay.
So like the simple act of like, I remember this person had like. He told me, like, you're going to send me a picture of what you're wearing every day. And then one of those days, I'm just going to tell you to take off your panties. Doesn't matter where you're at. And I was like, that would make me nut immediately. Right? And so it was just like playing that up a little bit. That helped build some intimacy for me. Super big fan of phone sex and fucking Discord sex and, like, I don't know, fucking FaceTime
Wait, Discord
sex.
sex?
So, okay, listen, there's this
Like,
thing.
is that just like chat based or voice or?
Yes, and video. Yes.
Oh,
Any
okay.
of those variations.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay, that makes sense.
I'll be real. I almost lost it the other day because my partner and my meta were just boning on Discord, and I was in there. I was like, "This is the most turned on I've been in my entire life," and I was like, "I might come without even touching myself," because I feel very involved in this. And they were talking to me. Do you know how fucked up it is? I posted this on FetLife that like my metamor. The one, they always bully me. That's just a part of like our relationship with each other, is the fact that they always bully me. They were 7 seconds from coming and they still made fun of me.
Wow.
Which, you know, hit my humiliation kink real hard. But also, I was just like, you asshole.
Damn. That's impressive.
They were literally...
That is very, very impressive.
They made me feel very involved, which is really nice. I was like, you don't have to do that. They're like, oh no, it turns us on too.
Everybody listening to you right now is #goals.
That's, you know, that's totally fine because this is like so fucking hot. Because literally, they were getting the other one off, and they made a joke. Like you sound like Mel right now. You sound so desperate. And I was like, oh my God. Right. And then the one who was about to come literally said, no, if I sounded like Mel, I would do this. Right. And did that. And then came. And I was like, I can't handle this. How did you do that right before coming? I can't even think before coming. I was so mad and so turned on. And they know this.
So in a sense, I mean, long distance doesn't have to mean like states away.
No, we're in the same town. They're just in a different house.
Just out of touch.
Yeah.
Interesting. Never thought about that.
Mm-hmm. Depends on what gets you off.
That's true.
Anyway, that was fun.
What did you want to say about long distance? I don't feel like we got anything from you.
Okay. Yeah, having the Discord sex and the phone sex is all well and good, but what about toys?
Oh yeah.
Ooh, the long distance toys where you can control what the other person has.
Have you seen the Lovense toys, the Max and the Nora, that coordinate with each other? This is depending if you if you have opposite sex parts.
Looking at it right now. Hang on.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I have had a set of friends that were long distance that did this, and they said it feels great. But if one of you have a penis and the other person has a vagina, apparently it is awesome because it will coordinate the movements with each other. So knowing that like your partner is feeling like the opposite,
right? The insertion and the retraction.
Isn't that crazy? Like I was like, oh my God, I really want to try that. Plus, I really like Lovense products. Like I'm trying to get the Quake I had a Lush 2 for a long time. Ooh. And I got it over the pandemic and my pussy killed it because I used it so often. So I'm just like, as soon as I get the money, hey, you know what? Christmas present. There we go. I'll start a GoFundMe for me to get my nut.
That I have a feeling that you would probably reach that goal.
Don't tempt me.
I'm just saying. Just saying.
Greedy's mouth is like wide open, staring at his
He's
phone because he's so
probably-
amazed.
Holy shit!
Already tapped on purchase
A
now.
whole new world.
He's about to black out and look up and realize that he spent $200.
Oh my God. Okay. This is far off topic from where we're going. Sex dolls exist,
Yes, they do.
and they really exist. Like I don't know why I never actually went to a website to look at them before, but holy shit, they exist. But they're expensive.
They are. I do like watching porn of men fucking sex dolls, though.
I'm gonna have to look that up now.
It's it's the weirdest thing because it's even like, I don't even know if it's weird. Like I've watched like, I don't know, guys jerking off doesn't really do anything for me. When they're using a fleshlight, it does a little bit of a thing for me. When they shove that fleshlight between like mattresses or pillows and then like they actively are fucking it with their whole body, that does something for me.
That must
Fucking
be-
a sex doll, I'm just in there and I'm like, why is this so hot? It's basically like, I don't know.
Right, like a dead body.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not the part that's appealing to me, but there's something about this that is really turning me on.
It wasn't a sex doll. It was like just a full-size doll that this chick was grinding on. It was really hot, and it was really turning me on. And then that thought entered my mind for a split second. It's like a dead body. Done. Over. Can't
You're like, oh,
can't
well.
finish. Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, so
You
I'm
just
definitely...
ruined that kink for a lot of people
Well, not
and
good,
made it better
but-
for others.
I know. But I mean, I was happy that I wasn't into dead bodies. You know?
You're like, well, that's comforting. That's
Yeah.
a kink that didn't unlock with that.
Exactly. Because everything else seems to fucking unlock in the opposite direction. I'm like, oh, that's a thing. You know?
That's such a fucking mood. You know how often you watch something, you're like, huh, oh.
Yeah. Yep. All started with tentacle porn.
Yeah,
It
basically.
really did. I was like, this doesn't even, what the fuck is, and now it's just like, where's it at?
God, I'm just thinking the most recent one for me that just unlocked is I saw a photo of someone with a vagina had the interior, like the silicone part of a fleshlight shoved inside of them so you can see like the fake vulva on the outside, and their partner was fucking that, and I was like, God, that sounds terrible and so uncomfortable, and wow, that is like really hot. Like I was like, oh my God, like that, you're not gonna get any sort of sensation. I'm like, oh my God, that is like the ultimate form of denial, to have them still like using your body, but you can't like
Can't
get
feel it.
Yeah, you can't get a lot of it. In fact, you may even be uncomfortable from it. I'm like, oh no.
Hear that, Gigantor? No, he didn't hear that.
I don't think that level of denial is his particular kink. It is my
There
other
may be
partners,
others.
though.
Yep.
I just watched one the other night that it was a stepmother and stepdaughter, and the stepdaughter was being a little floozy, and so stepmom like bent her over and pulled down clothing or up clothing, either way, bared ass, and the stepdaughter was like, "Oh, am I gonna get a spanking?" And stepmom's like, "No," and just shoves a finger in her ass. It was so good, and then proceeded to give her a lecture while just finger in ass. And I'm like, oh, that's fucking amazing.
That seems so humiliating. I don't know how we got from polyamory to this,
I
but I'm
don't
really
either.
happy with it. Anyway, we should probably maybe I
Come
think
back.
I would say come back, but I don't know how many more questions or things about polyamory I really have. So I guess like, do we have a listener question?
Well, no,
No. Okay.
because I didn't get full consent, so I'm not gonna dive into that right now.
Maybe next time.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's talk about our kink/fetish of the week. I want someone else to read it because I've been talking a lot.
Oh, I'll have to bring it up then. I already forgot what it is.
Oh, starts with an M.
Oh, does it now? Is it medical play?
Could
Is
be.
it role play involving medical scenarios, medical implements like scalpels, needles, speculums, etc., and other medical uniforms? Medical play often involves an examination of one person by the doctor, who may take advantage of the situation.
Doctor, it feels like you're having sex with me. No, this is an exam.
I'm just making sure that you're perfectly numb. Apparently, play piercing is also common in medical play. how does play piercing work? You don't actually pierce the flesh.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely, you do.
So how is that play piercing?
Because it's piercing in a play form.
Oh.
It's not, I'm going to play like I'm piercing you. Oh, feel that needle rubbing across your skin. No, it's fucking jab in, out the other side, and play with that. Like, make a cross set of needles and then press on that little button.
Little pain button.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or take little tiny, like 36 gauge needles that are only like half an inch long, stick them into your flesh, and fire cup over that shit.
Oh, that sounds brutal.
Oh, it's like a little geyser of blood squirting up in the fire cup, and then it settles and solidifies.
Yeah,
and
it gets all
gels
gelatinous. Okay, I really want to try this. I need to find.
I'm
I
sure
need to
I
find
just
people.
chased off somebody listening to our
Well,
podcast.
goodbye,
Lala,
because you
just-
brought me in.
Just Lala. And she's not here, so we're fine.
That sounds like fun.
She might listen.
She does listen, yes.
Hi, Lala.
We love you.
Hi. Miss you.
Let's have a word of the day for giveaways, because I was totally slammed by a listener the other night. Like, hey, by the way, the last 2 episodes, there's been no word. I'm like, God damn it.
Let's say sex toy.
Sex toy?
Why not?
Sex toy.
Sex
Oh,
toy.
enjoy sex toy.
Okay,
I
I'm
love
perfectly
that
happy with
comic
that.
strip.
But what's the word of the day?
Sex toy.
Oh, I thought you just wanted us to say sex toy.
No.
I thought it was a kink of
No,
yours.
no.
I'm sorry.
Well,
thought
I
you
mean,
had a
if it
verbal-
gets you going, I mean, I can have you say other things too.
Sex toy. Sex toy. Sex toy. Sex toy.
Bitch, rebel.
Okay, I'm ending it now, because now you're going into some... Y'all are showing how old you are. Anyway, that was a good episode.
I had a kid ask me if I wanted to listen to some classic rock, from the late 1900s. Fuck you, kid. Kid was maybe 16 years old. I wanted to
Kid is not
backhand
wrong,
him.
though. Have you listened to classic rock
Oh
radio
my God,
stations?
I heard Limp Bizkit on fucking
Yeah.
classic.
Exactly.
Did
We
you know
are
they were
fucking old?
Did you know they just released another album?
I was about to say,
I
like,
don't
yeah,
care.
they just
Yeah.
released another one.
Oh no! It's hilarious. Their album is titled "Still Sucks." Limp
Well-
Bizkit still sucks.
They realize it then.
Yes, they do.
But I mean, this is coming from a band whose one of their albums was
Chocolate Starfish and the hot dog flavored water.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we're old.
John, reliving the glory
Chocolate
days.
Starfish.
Yeah. I would like Limp Bizkit a lot more if they had a different frontman. I can tell you that.
That's completely valid.
Because the music aspect of their stuff, I kind of dig.
Yeah. DJ Lethal's got some talent. He does.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm ending
shut up.
this. I'm ending this. I need to let you old timers go figure it out.
All right, you and your Kanye. And your...
Get your dog off my lawn, damn
Fuck, I think-
whippersnapper.
Even Kanye is a little dated now, huh?
So, like,
There's nothing a little dated about Kanye.
Right.
he's old as hell. He's still trying. Oh, but he goes by Ye now, by the way. He legally changed his name.
Really?
I only know that from Twitter because
Let me
no one
put
gives
on-
a shit about Kanye.
Let me put on my shocked face.
Waiting.
I can't do it.
Oh, it's not coming.
I just can't do it.
It's not coming.
Listen, when y'all start listening to some Olivia Rodrigo, just let me know.
Oh, every
I
time
have actually.
every time I'm
You're on
feeling
TikTok.
No. Well, no, that's not where I heard it.
We just cut off Greedy. Go ahead.
every time I'm feeling really really down, I just pull up YouTube and search Kanye Bohemian Rhapsody. Oh my God, it was so fucking horrible. It always makes me
A
smile.
little bit of vomit in the back of my throat there.
We gotta end this podcast.
Okay. Well, do you have any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. More group sex. Don't be too ashamed of your kinks. Communicate with your polycule. There you go.
Nice.
So,
Thief, you got any final thoughts here?
I have a final thought for a special somebody out there. Oh no. Yeah. And it is. I'm not trying to break up your relationship, sweetie. Just think of me as the friendly fluffer who gets you ready for your big night with Bay.
that's new kink unlocked. Okay. Greedy. Oh, He's on a journey. Greedy, what are your final thoughts?
Have your pet spayed or neutered unless it's a kink pet. Don't
I was
do
gonna
that.
say, don't spay me.
The Bob Barker treatment does not go well with your partners.
Okay, well.
Don't spay me, dude.
All right, y'all. That's it. We're done. We're out. Goodbye, Gothamites.
We are out.
Bye.
So there's Thief, there's Greedy, and there's Never Spayed Me.
Oh.